here's the thing. Terrorism. Like, it's something that we as a Western society see as terrifying. It's something that everyone sees as terrifying because it's terrorism. Um, but I think terrorism is very interesting in the way that it's portrayed in Western society. So, terrorism, in my opinion, is very much like bullying, in that you're basically forcing someone to conform to your ideals, and if you don't, you punish them in some way. So, George, the third grade bully, might come up and be, "Yo, Jacob, sure, okay. Um, Jacob, you better give me all of your lunch money, otherwise I'll beat you up." And so basically, George is forcing Jacob to pay him not to beat him up. That's essentially what it is. Terrorism is kind of that. It's to a bit of the next level, but I think one of the biggest problems with terrorism is Western society, in that we take our safety to extremes. We are very conscious about being safe all the time. That's why parents at a young age, they tend to buy kids phones. Like when I was growing up, I didn't have my first phone until I was like 14, which was only 4 years ago. And even then, I had to pay for it myself. It wasn't, my parents didn't give it to me. And I was one of the only kids growing up in my primary school who didn't have a mobile phone. And while I was kind of upset by this, I'm kind of glad that I'd gone through what it's like to not have a mobile phone, because if something had happened to me, I obviously had to figure it out. I couldn't call someone, I couldn't do anything. I just had to roll with it. And I think that kind of shaped who I am today, and that I tend to look out for lots of people. I try to look out for lots of people if I can, and I find that I'm very protective over things. But there were particular times where having a mobile phone would have been convenient, and it was kind of unfortunate that I was the only one my age who didn't have a mobile phone. But the problem is, because everybody has this mobile phone, their parents are always fretting and stressing and worrying if their kids are okay or in trouble or whatnot, which isn't a bad thing. And I think often it's human nature and it's parent nature to actually worry about this sort of stuff. And I don't want this to sound like not to look after kids, because that's not what I'm going for. But this whole sort of fear that something is going to happen to someone that you love is kind of what controls Western society, among other things. But that's one aspect that lots of people, why lots of parents in particular do the things that they do. So basically, when I was younger, the excuse that all my friends would give me for having a phone is like, "Oh, my parents got it for me, in case something happens to me." And I can tell you now, I've lived 18 years on this planet. Nothing significantly awful has happened to me. Like, I've never been kidnapped, I've never been stabbed or shot, as much as I joke about all of them. It's not happened before. And I think so often Western society, we get this false sense of terrorism. It's not really the right word, but like we believe that everyone is out there to get us. And the thing is, if you look statistically, I have no idea. I'm going to make up statistics just for the point of the example. But I would say maybe, let's be generous and say 1 in 100 people. Actually, no. Let's be more generous. Let's say 1 in 50 people are, burglars, robbers, murderers, all that sort of stuff. Assuming you go through your everyday life, the amount of new people that you meet, I imagine, wouldn't be very high, or at least new people that you come into contact with, I should say. So, for example, if you go shopping, you're probably you're likely, well, not likely, you will run into more people than me sitting here on my butt talking to a microphone. Just because that's just how meeting people works. You have to go out to actually meet people. So you would think that, sure, you are more likely to come into someone who is one of these people who are looking to harm people and all that. But the thing is, lots of people aren't. And if you are going out where you're going to meet more people, it's likely to be more populated as well. So someone's less likely to do something to you if they're more likely to be caught. So there's all this fear being spread around the world for stuff that isn't necessarily there. And I'm not saying that terrorism doesn't happen in crowded places. I think in recent years with things like the Ariana Grande concert and all those sorts of things, how people do go out of the way and they do really awful things to lots of people in really crowded areas. I think it's something to be aware about. But the thing with terrorism is it's there to spread fear. And with the example of the concert, it's now going to turn people off going to other concerts. Purely because this happened once and people are going to be like, oh, if we go to another concert, maybe this will happen. And, maybe it will. But at the same time, if you think about all the concerts that have ever existed, the amount of concerts that have been run throughout the history of the world and how many times suicide bomber has gone and detonated the bomb in the crowd, I would say it's probably one in millions of concerts. So statistically, it's pretty, I would say virtually impossible to go to a concert and have some sort of terrorism attack happen. And obviously it's not impossible because it has happened. And this is where it's hard because there's an amount of, you need to be practical about, what you choose to do, where you choose to be, and at what time you choose to be. But somewhere like a concert is not necessarily a dangerous place. But through these acts, people are now fearful of going to concerts, which is kind of the whole point of terrorism. You're scaring people into comply to your will. And in this sense, I don't want to start poking fingers because I know it is so recent and it's a grey topic. So I don't think we should live a boring life because someone else might be evil. And I know that probably doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But what I mean is, if you like concerts and you like going to concerts, then go to concerts. Don't let the idea of the what if, the 0.0001% chance that something's actually going to happen. Don't let that turn you off actually going and enjoying these things. Because I know if I'm quite introverted, I'm not really a fan of going out and actually partying, or that just doesn't really interest me. If you really enjoy that stuff, don't let anything stop you doing that. Because if that's what makes your life happy, then why would you start? It's like if you had a best friend and you went up to your best friend and you were like, hey, I really like ballet. I really like ballet dancing, and this opportunity has come up for me to go to Czechoslovakia to go in the World Championship of Ballet, and I've been asked to come. I have no idea about ballet or anything like that. But then your friend is like, well, no, you're my friend. I'm not going to let you go. If you go, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. Which, this is a super extreme case of very, very contrasting from something which is kind of childish to something which is very serious. But if you're like, okay, friend, sure, I'll listen to you. I will drop my entire dream just so I can make you happy. I don't necessarily think that's practical. Because if you're stuck where you are, being miserable, while you had this opportunity to go and fulfill your lifelong dream, I don't think that's good. And don't get me wrong, if you had a friend that actually said that, that's not a great friend. That's quite a mean thing to do. So I the thing which I hate most about all these attacks and terrorism that's going on at the moment, the thing that I hate most is the media. And the media seem to be this all-knowing source of everything, and they're not. Okay, we're human. Everyone hears things differently. I was reading a story the other day about how um, people were saying that lots of people started making up rumors about the bombing in Ariana Grande's thing. And now I honestly, I don't know what's true and what's not anymore. I heard someone say that it wasn't actually a terrorist attack, it was some sort of faulty thing. And for all I know, it could have been. I wasn't there. I have no idea. I live in Australia, which is quite far away from England or Britain, wherever it was. I really should know. But there's lots of stuff that happened that just people who aren't there aren't going to know. And the media is very good at putting their own twist on things, because all the media, 99.9% of the time, what the media want to do, they want people coming to their sites. And the sad thing about them just wanting the hits is that it means that they will make a story about whatever will get them the most views. And well, things like terrorism are something that people should know about. I think it's not fair for the people who are suffered by the attack if they don't have a platform or a voice or anything to stand on. Because I think things like that should be known, because that affects lots of people. Even like that was an entire concert. There were a lot of people at the concert. I guarantee someone knows someone who was probably at that concert, or someone knows someone knows someone knows someone knows someone, so on. So an event like that kind of affects everyone. But at the same time, it also doesn't sit well with me that then news outlets and stuff like that will then go and make stories on people like the Kardashians straight after things like that. I was so disgusted the other day because I took screenshots of this actually because I was so disgusted, and this is actually one of the things that inspired me to make this. So it was. I'm not going to say where it was from, but I'll put the images up here. And so the news headline for this one is "Cruel Twist in 8-Year-Old's Fate." And this was a story about a little girl who was killed in the explosion at the Ariana Grande concert, and how her mother was in a critical condition in hospital, so she didn't actually know that her daughter was dead. It was really difficult to read, actually. It was heartbreaking. Following that, the immediate story after that was alien yoga is the latest Instagram trend. What? Like, how do you go from a mother not knowing their child is dead to an Instagram trend? Is that all that Western society cares about? We care about people killing each other and trends, people doing weird things, people, oh, funny, alien yoga, what is this? Oh, it's so funny. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. Like, so often now I'll see news stories and I will just be put off by them because it's the news story the story that I was actually looking at looks quite interesting and looks like something which I want to know about, and it's like, the terrorist attack. I wanted to know about that because it's interesting is not the right word. I was concerned. I wanted to know stuff about it, so if it came up, I could give my 5 cents. But then when it's followed by something like, oh, look, they're Kardashians. They're posing in swimwear at a beach. It's like, what? How can you follow something by follow something so important to some people and then something so playful? I can't think of a better word for it, but it's like I'm just disappointed. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed that Western society has now got this idea that it's either death or pretty people. That's it. That's all we care about. And I'm kind of ashamed to be in a Western society where that's all we care about. We don't necessarily I'm trying to pick my words very carefully. In that, I think something like terrorist attacks, especially ones that affect lots of people and put people in hospital and kill people and all that sort of stuff. I really think we should dwell on them and figure out ways that we can actually support the families and other people involved in it. Because that would be something that, if you heard that your neighbor Billy has broken lawnmower, you'd be like, "Oi, Billy, come borrow my lawnmower until you get yours fixed." Because that's just kind of what you do. But for some reason that stops. As soon as it becomes international, it stops. No one really cares. We don't. And this is generalization. I know some people. There are some absolute beautiful souls out there that care to the nth degree, and they will just throw money and volunteer and do all sorts of stuff to help out other people. And those people are truly amazing. Like I can't even think where this world would be if we didn't have those sorts of people. But the vast majority of us is like, oh, that's so sad. And then we move to the next one and we're like, oh, alien yoga. It's like, how can we have something so serious and then just fob it off so quickly with something so unimportant as an Instagram trend? I I don't understand. Like there's this weird psychological experiment. I'm not 100% sure if it's got a specific name, but I remember hearing it at school one time, and it was something like if you split 100 people into the demographics of the population of the world. So it's something roughly like you have one person who is just like filthy rich, rich to the point where money almost isn't apparent to them. They can just buy whatever they want and they will still have so much money left over. It's not funny. Then it's something like 66 people are kind of Western society, or it's probably even less than that actually. But for the sake of the example, it was 66% of people are they're not wealthy, but they're not poor. They're kind of just your average Joe. They can do, they can do things. They live comfortably. They're not in luxury, but they're not in poverty either. They're just kind of in the middle. And then you have about 33 people that are in severe poverty, in that they have virtually no money. They need to struggle to survive every day they need to struggle to earn a living every day so they can survive. And they're kind of the three groups of people that you have. And when you lock them all in a room and there's only 100 people, you find that you get this weird sort of equilibrium, in that the really rich person and the higher up, the richer of the middle class, so to speak, they kind of give money to the poorer people, and then they all kind of end up being this equal sort of, everyone kind of has the same level of living, which I really like that, how humanity, even though we're all so different, if you put us all together, we all kind of equal out and we all kind of see each other as equals. But the problem is, we're as soon as there's disassociation, so because we're all locked in a room, the person who has so much money can physically see the people on the other side of the room who are starving to death. And then he can literally, they can literally walk over to them and do something for them. They can give them money, they can buy them food, they can do all that sort of stuff. And it's a physical action, and it's quite easy for the rich person to go over and do that because they're there. But the thing is, as soon as you put an ocean between that, it's not so simple. And even with first world countries versus third world countries, there's only an amount of things that people in first world countries can do to people to help them in third world countries. Like we can donate money, we can physically go over there, but all of that all takes time, money, effort from Western society. Sorry, I shouldn't say Western. So first world countries. And while that does make a big difference, there's only so far you can go. Like, so often you get people from first world countries going over to third world countries, and then they almost become the third world country, in that they don't really have a sustainable job. They're trying to help out other people, but they don't really have a way of income themselves. So they're kind of stuck in this, I'm here now, but I can't even get back to where I was. It's really awful that people with really good intentions can then get stuck in these situations where they can't even help They can't even do what they set out to do in the first place. They can barely survive themselves. So, I don't know. It's just saddening. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to say. It's hard to say this is right, this is wrong, because at the end of the day, what is right and what is wrong? Because it's all subjective. Um, and I think that's what's so difficult about all these sorts of things. But I guess in the end, all I want people to get out of this is that do what you want to do. Live the life you want to live. Don't let anybody else stop you. But at the same time, just realize where you started from and realize where you came from and realize the people who are below you. Because even though you might be looking above and you're always trying to get higher and higher in life, the people who get you there will end up being the people who work for you, assuming you get there. So don't forget the little people. Little people matter. Without the little people, the world wouldn't go round.